All right, guys, so we're going to be showing you today how to install this. This is the Nefu Plabo. This is a full HD front and rear channel camera. It is 12 or 24 volts, so it can suit trucks or vehicles. We're going to quickly show you how it's going to look in the vehicle, but it's a full HD front and rear dash camera with a GPS add-on, and you can also use Wi-Fi and smartphone connect to it via your app, and you can actually share and edit footage, which is really cool. We're going to show you how it's going to look in the car. We've shown you on our YouTube channel, Carbon Car Systems, how to do hatch vehicles before. Today we're going to be doing a sedan vehicle, and this is going to be much easier, but we're going to show you quickly how to test for some of the wires. Because this does have power management built in and motion detection built in, you want to get a constant power on this, not just a cigarette lighter, because a cigarette lighter will do accessory power when the car is on, which is great to record while you're driving. But if you want to be recording all the time with a camera like this that has motion detection or time lapse for overnight, you want a constant power that it can light up and record whenever someone's moving around your vehicle. And that's one of those security features which I think you really want, because you want to check what's happening to your vehicle when you're not at the vehicle itself. And the reason for the power management is because you don't want it recording all night and flattening your batteries. The power management will stop that from happening. So this is really cool, guys. So straightforward, this is what the camera looks like itself. It's got a little lens over the front here, a little plastic cover just to stop that and keep it clean while you're doing the installation. SD card is on the side. This camera itself will take 16 gigabytes up to 256 gigabytes. It is important that you have a very high quality SD card. They are often the first thing to go due to heat in dash cameras, and Australian conditions get very hot. So we supply these SD cards, but if you want, you've got to ensure they've got a high overwrite number as well, so how many times it can be overwritten, because it's like a CCTV. It will record over on your hard drive all the old footage. It does separate and record into separate event files and motion detection files and driver recording files, but then they will overwrite at certain periods of time. So if you want to download them. But look, first up, this is an adjustable camera. On the top of it here, you have your DC power in, which is your 12 volt or 24 volt. And that's going to come with the Hardwire kit, which actually is here. We're going to show you how to install that in just a moment. For those of you out there, this will come in the kit. It's not a separate purchase because you need it in order to get that motion detection working. The cigarette lighter we're not including because you should be installing it this way to take advantage of the full features. Now, this is the same as a Thinkware Hardwire kit. If you're wondering out there, it's the exact same plug. So if you were changing from a Thinkware to a Nefu or vice versa, it would be the exact same plug. It also has a plug here, a little 3.5mm jack. That is for the rear camera. We're going to show you that as well. This one has optional GPS add-on, and that will give you your speed stamps and your location recording over your mapping. When you put it on the viewer on your computer, you can actually see where your car's gone. That is an optional extra. You don't have to have it. Reason we did that as an option is you don't want it internal, or not on this, because they start to get hot when you have too many things internal, and you don't want them overheating because it reduces the longevity of your camera. But also, if you don't want to pay for that, you don't have to have it. So it's an option, okay? Now, front and rear 2-channel with the Hardwire kit is going to be retailing at around $300 Australian. So very affordable compared to something very similar out there. Would normally be around $600. So by bypassing not wholesaling and going direct to public for you guys, we're basically saving you half the price, which is, I think, makes it really affordable for everyone out there. But this is how we're going to install it, guys. It's 3M tape. It's a nice tape here, okay? We're actually going to put it straight on the front of the system. Just going to find a spot where you're going to mount it, and mount it very straight. Use any guidelines that you have and just stick it up. Now you want to be pressing and just making sure that you press so there's no bubbles in it, okay? And just going to clean all this dirt on the outside. So stick it on there nice and neat, and as you can see, you'll have the buttons here for manual recording, Wi-Fi and voice. Very nice and adjustable angle. Now you could put it down here a little bit more centered if you wanted it to be, but I've got cables and other things here for my security system and stereo, so I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to put it just to the left. It's not going to change the footage that much that it's going to bother me. Now, next step is we're going to do our front to rear cable and our Hardwire cable, and we're going to show you how this would install. Very simple to do. We're actually going to show you the external GPS as well for those guys that actually wanted to have it. This camera uses a Sony Starvis image sensor, so it has real high quality or ultra night vision. Some of the best parts out there that you can actually get, which is really cool. Same as the rear camera, it uses a Sony Exmor image sensor, so that is very high quality as well, being from Sony. Now, this is it. This is the two cables, and this is the external GPS, should you want to have that option, and they only go in one way. So it's very easy, guys. The DC power will go straight in the one that is DC. Then you're going to select your GPS, which is next in line. Be careful, the GPS and the 2-channel are both the same style jack. So this is the rear camera is for the second channel. You just want to check them and make sure they're all correct, because it won't make any difference if you put it in the GPS. It won't hurt anything, but you just want to make sure it doesn't do that when you're doing the installation, because you'll get some confusion if it doesn't work when you've installed it. Now, the best way to do this is actually put a little bit of tape around it. We're going to use tester tape here, and that we're going to straighten these out, put a little bit of tape around them so they're nice and neat. We can go straight up into the hood lining, and we're going to keep them straight for a reason, because if you spin the camera, you want to be able to have some flexibility in it just when you install it. So let's just do this here. You can do this before you put it on the front windscreen. You don't have to do it afterwards, because this will be in the way, or the rear vision mirror. So I suggest you possibly could do it after the fact, but just work out where you're going to put it first, so you know how far you're going to have to tape this, and go from there. All right, so that's how it's going to actually run up into the hood lining. So you can, on all hood linings, on all vehicles, you'll be able to put it up like this. There'll be plenty of room. You'll see a bit of flex in them and hide them away nice and neat. But you want to be spinning your camera to where it is, and then you've got a bit of flexibility for the different angles. So you want to leave a little bit of loom there just for that ability to be able to move it to the right angle, but you're not going to need a lot, okay? So flexibility wise. Now, I'm running a lot of things on this car, but most vehicles don't have all this other crap here. So just be aware of that as well. So, all right. Now, there's two ways you can do the GPS. If you want it and you don't mind things on your windscreen, you can put it here right next to it if you wanted that external GPS there. On some Euros, you don't want to be putting it down here because they have reflective windscreens. You do need to put the GPS up in this dotted area, and that is for a particular reason. It won't pick up signal anywhere else in the vehicle. If you wanted to, you could run it up into your hood lining, but if there's metal above it, again, it will not pick up GPS real well. And you just want to be running this along your hood lining and down your A-pillar. And this is how you do it on any vehicle, and any installer should be able to do this for you. If they can't do it, probably suggest they're not the right installer for you. Again, this is 3M tape. I am going to put this on my front windscreen because I really don't mind things on my front windscreen, and you just make sure you line them up nice and neat. There you go, there's a bit of symmetry there, just keeping it nice and square. And if you've got some of the newer vehicles out there like this is actually going to have an airbag here. So we're going to pull this off and show you. This has got an airbag here. You don't want to be running in front of it. You want to be running down the side here, so it's not in the way, or if you're going to run behind it, run behind there as well, okay? So as we run this down our A-pillar, we're going to have two different cables. We've got our Hardwire kit, which is here. This is the one with all the power, earth, and ignition, so it's just the 3 connectors. And then you've got your rear cable. And you can do this two ways. You can run your cable before wiring it up, but I like to do the front first and run it backwards. That way I know how much cable I've got. And it's a very thin and small cable to be able to run through any rear grommets. So if you have a hatch vehicle like you've seen in some of our other vehicles, other videos on our YouTube, that's going to be really easy to run through those grommets because it's so small and thin. So that was one of the things that appealed to me about this camera. So it's really, really cool. So we're going to run that towards the rear. We're going to put it behind our airbag. We're going to tuck it through, and we're going to run that to the rear, and the rear simply plugs in. So you can actually pull off this pinch weld. So this is the pinch weld here. You can actually pull that off. It's designed to come off on the vehicles, and we're going to run that to the rear in just a moment. So I'll shoot that for you from a different angle, but just keep that in mind. That is where that is going. So I'm going to put the pinch weld there. This one here is going, I'm going to run it to my stereo. I'm going to show you how to wire that in the center here. But if you have other vehicles, you can run it down to your fuse box. All you're going to need is an earth, which is any piece of metal on the vehicle. You will need a constant power, so that has power when your vehicle turns off. That's for the motion detection. And you will need an ignition because it needs to know when the car turns on that it can turn the camera on and record while you're driving. Now, I'm going to run this down this A-pillar, so very easily into the center. I'm not going to show you too much how we're going to run it into the center. It's basically going to go behind the glove box and run over. We are going to put a little bit of tape on these cables just to keep them nice and neat here. That's just cable management. You can do that as much or as little as you like. You could use cable ties if you want. I'm going to use the tester tape because It's just easier and quite neat. You don't need to use cable ties, and I find cable ties quite annoying. So we're going to tape that up nice and neat. So that's all right, guys. So that's been taped up nice and neat. We're then going to put our A-pillar back on, and we're going to clip that up, and that should hold in place. And taping those cables out of the way makes it very easy to put that panel back on. Okay. Then we're going to put our pinch weld on. Slides on. Designed to come on and off. This is how it's designed on all vehicles. If you want to know, this is a Toyota 86, but most of the sedans out there will be the same. And there you have it. That's nice and neat. Camera's got adjustability. Camera cables look nice and neat. Centered. Very easy to do. We've got the on switch in the on position. The SD card on the right hand side you can get to should you need to pop it out. And when the mirror comes up, it's actually going to hide that from the driver, nice and discreet. Now, we do have a lot of things in this vehicle because I like my gadgets, but your car probably won't look like that. Now, we're going to run this across to the center here, quickly show you how to power it up, and we're going to plug in the rear camera, and that is as easy as it needs to be. All right, guys, so you can see me picking up the rear camera here as I start to run towards the rear, and you can put it around any of these plastics, and you really just want to tuck it up nice and neat so it's never going to fall down. There's two ways you can do it. I personally love to do it by using my hands and these pry bars. These are a plastic or a nylon non-marring pry bar. Reason being, so you don't want to damage any plastics on your vehicle. So these can be very handy because if you get to these tight little... Yeah, so if you have these pry bars, you can just sort of lever it up and push it into these areas. These hood linings are designed to move quite a lot. I mean, most vehicles have that these days. So you don't need to worry too much if you're pressing on them. It's not going to do any damage. I mean, just be careful. I mean, I'm not saying rip into it like a savage or a dog. Just cut into it nice and neat. But that's just a little bit of foam there. You can actually just pull them back down, any flexibility. So if you do have this shape bent out a little bit, you can actually pull these off and just sort of press it back down into shape. Okay, see, there you go, nice and neat. And that's just a bit of foam from behind the trim there. So you can actually do it nice and neat. We're going to clean that up once we're actually finished. We'll go back through and check all that. But you can pull all these panels off. So you can see here, we just started to pull that off as we run it. Reason being, it's got a little lip on the 86. We just want to keep it as neat as possible and not falling down. So if you pull them forward, clip it around, and I'm going to hide my cables up in that section there. And we use a pry bar like this. You can actually slide it around. Makes life a little bit easier. And if you're pulling off any panels, these are about $10 for a set of 4. We make sure we have these on our website for you guys now because a lot of people like to give things a go themselves. Now, this is the rear camera on the Plabo. Very, very discreet, very small. It's got some heating vents. Does have a little LED in the center there as well. This is our sample kit, or one of the sample kits we had. So it has the gray tape. You might have seen gray tape on the front one as well. Tape is now black. We requested that change from the manufacturer. Again, just has this little cover over the lens. But all you want to do is make sure you got it centered in the vehicle. So we're going to center it with the center brake light here. And we're just going to put it on. So I've previously removed the dash camera from here. So we're just going to center it up nice and neat. Make sure it's straight and press it. And there we go. And that looks very neat in the car. Now, as soon as you run this through to the rear, it simply plugs in. Doesn't matter what dash camera you got, it's going to need a cable. They don't make wireless ones. And even if you did have a wireless one, you'd have to get power to it and it'd need a camera cable anyway. So either way, you're going to get some sort of cable. So this is probably the most discreet we've ever been, but Thinkware and Blackview, they're all the same. They use either a micro USB or a 3.5mm jack. Much the same as you're using the front camera. You're just going to tuck it up into that hood lining. Make sure it sits really well and tucked in over the lip. And that is it, completely adjustable. So I'm going to power up the camera now. I'm going to tape these cables up here and tuck them in behind this A-pillar and neatly tuck it away. And we are complete. So easiest way to do that, quickly bundle them. We don't bundle them real tight because we don't like to break cables, but most cables these days are very agile, I would say, or flexible, so they're not going to damage. So we're just going to tape it up nice and neat. Again, you could use cable ties or hide them wherever you like. If there is any airbag, so this one says SRS airbag, just going to make sure we're way behind that so we're not interfering with the airbag, but there's a ton of room up here. We're going to tuck it in and sit it up there. Okay, there she goes, done. Put that away. Boom. Okay guys, last thing left is we're going to pop this stereo out quickly, show you how to test for the cables, the power, F, and ignition to make sure you got the right wires. It doesn't have to be ignition, it can be accessories, because accessories or ignition are both on while you're driving, and that's the thing that matters, is that it's recording while you're driving. So this says accessories, battery, ground. They all labeled, so you can't get them wrong. They are the same colors as if you were doing an aftermarket stereo, so you cannot go wrong. You can go color for color. If you have an aftermarket stereo, you probably don't even need to test. I suggest testing, use a test light or a multimeter, because I strongly suggest you do test things. But if you're using an aftermarket stereo, they are the same colors. Black is earth, yellow is constant power, red is accessories, but again, you can use ignition as well, because that's just there to say when the camera is turned on, so that it can light up and record. So this is an 86, we're just gonna pop that off. Again, those non-marring pry bars really make that easy. We've loosened off the screws for this for the sake of time for you guys, and I have Allen key bolts in my stereo just because 86s get the stereos knocked off quite often, so just made it a little bit harder for anyone trying to steal my stereo. Again, I have an alarm system, so it's probably not too much of a worry, but if you're wondering why I'm using an Allen key here rather than, normally it's a 10mm pop. So we're going to pull the stereo out. Really easy to do on this car, but most cars you could go to a fuse box as well and you could test a fuse box, and it's not going to be a hard thing to do. On fuse boxes, you would take your test light. Now, I'm going to show you a test light because a lot of people have access to test lights, but it is important that you know the difference between this and a multimeter. If you were using a newer vehicle, I would suggest using a multimeter because they don't put a lot of load onto your circuits. And that's important, but if you're testing at the fuse box, I mean, those things, you're not really going to damage anything at the fuse box. And again, at the stereo, you're only testing the stereo, so it shouldn't damage anything. This is an LED test light, and the reason being it puts less load on the circuit when you're testing, because to light this up, it does put a little bit of load through the LED. LEDs obviously use less power than a globe would. It's like using your traditional incandescent and LED lighting. So we're just going to put that on earth, and you can actually test the plug. So if we were to test into the back of a stereo, you can see here, like I said, yellow would be constant power. So we've got the car off, you tap it in there or touch the piece of metal, it lights up because the car's got constant power when it's off. So that would power the camera all the time. Again, there is a black one for earth, and there is a little red one on the other side. So if we flip this over, you can see the red here. If we tuck this into the red, you could press that, and if we turn the car on now, it lights up. So that's the accessory power. Now, when you turn a car on, the first press is accessory, or the first turn of the key is accessory. The second press is ignition, and if you hold it down, you just got to make sure that they're going to be on when your car is running. Okay, and that's what tells the dash camera to come on and off. Now, that's if you're using the back of an aftermarket stereo. If you were doing the factory plugs on a vehicle, which are way back here on this car, we've got a couple of different things in line. We're running amplifiers and things you could test for it, again, further back in the original car plugs. Now, I've had previously a dash camera wired in here. We're just changing it over to show you guys today. But again, here's the colors on an aftermarket stereo. But it doesn't matter about the color if you were testing, but when you are testing for earth, just make sure you don't use a black wire if you're not sure it's earth, because it could be a speaker wire. A speaker wire can deceptively show as earth because they don't have any power running through them as standard. So if you're going to earth something out, guys, choose a piece of metal in the car. So in here on the side there's a bracket. Just earth it out on the bracket, because that's going to be a definite earth for you guys out there as well. You don't have to be and ahhing if that black wire, because not all vehicles, black wires are not always earth. European, it's constantly or usually brown. But a lot of vehicles are different as well. Okay, so we've run our cables up to the center, 2 fuses on them, so you can't damage the camera. Those fuses are there to protect the camera. You got a little ring terminal here anyway for earthing it, so if you were putting that in, we could earth it just with the cable. So if you have a look here, zoom in here, mate, you could earth it onto a bolt. But if you're going to do that behind, check that goes into metal. So this is an 86, there's no metal going to that, that's just a standalone clip. There is metal going to that one down the bottom. So if you wanted to, you could bolt it to the one down the bottom, but not the one up the top, okay guys? So you need to make sure there is going to be metal behind that. We are going to earth it out today, very straightforward. Now we're going to trim this off, and we're going to solder it up. You can get things called jowl clips or quick crimps. If you do those, just ensure that your connectivity is really, really good and it actually does bite through the wires. Jowl clips, if you don't know what they are probably the best quick crimp that we have ever sold or seen. We do have a video on our YouTube channel that shows you how to use those guys. There it is, we're just stripping those wires back, and we're gonna strip these back and power them up. Now, if you're gonna solder these, make sure you just do the earth on its own. So these are wire strippers, guys. Do one at a time. Okay, don't do all three at a time. You can short things because you do have constant power. Just gonna wrap it around there. Solder it up. Just gonna grab a solder, guys. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, sorry about the wait. We're outside today in the shop. So I've got a bit of sunlight, not all the tools are down here. And this is just a battery powered soldering iron. These are really cool. These are an Australian rechargeable iron, so it's not using a portable gas one. So they're really, really cool. Made by a company called Aussie Irons. Yeah, local company in Australia. Just gonna heat that up, solder it nice and neat. Again, like I said, you could use quick crimps or jowl crimps, crimps if you wanted. Just ask us, we've got jowl clips. And then we just get a tape here. In fact, I think we might provide them with jowl clips. We might actually put them in the cameras. What do you reckon? Yeah, we might actually put some jowl clips in there, guys. We might put 3 in the kit, so that for you guys out there that can't solder or don't have access to a soldering iron, you can actually use the jowl clips. We might do that for everyone out there. We're going to include it in our kits. Okay, here's the constant power and the accessory power. Again, like I said, just test for it. If you were to use a multimeter, actually I can show you quickly how to use a multimeter. I've got a multimeter here as well for you guys out there. You can buy multimeters or test lights from your local electronics store, such as J-Car. They wouldn't be too expensive. Multimeters these days, you can pick up a cheapie for a couple bucks, $5. Test light, probably even less. Want to make sure you got it on V for voltage, common, black and earth, right? Put it on your voltage setting with the line means direct current, the alternating signal means alternating current. Set your range, so this is a ranging one here. And we're actually going to show you, I'll see if we can get this in the photo at the same time. So if we had this on earth, so you can just hold it on an earth somewhere. So you're going to put your black one on your earth. I'm putting it on the door jamb over here just for the sake of showing you. Touch it on the constant power, and you can see that lights up 12 volt. So you're saying 12 down there in the camera. Look down there, Az. Look. See there on the meter, it says 12 volt. Now the other one, we're putting on the red now for accessories. See, it says nothing. But if we push the button, I'll turn the car to accessories, it says 12 volt. Okay, it's 11.52 because we're sitting here with the light on in the car, so we're flattening my battery. But that's a little bit lower. But that's how you would use a multimeter. So strongly suggest using a multimeter. You can hear the dash camera talking there. It's just started to light up because we turned the car on and we got power on it. But we're going to show you the features of the dash camera in just a second as well. And we're going to show you, this is a really cool dash camera. It speaks to you and stuff, tells you if there was any recordings while we were at the vehicle. And then you can just pair it to your phone quickly via Wi-Fi. And you can check all the footage quickly on your phone, so you don't have to pull the SD card out all the time and plug it into your computer. The app is called Nefu. It is on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store, so you don't have to worry about whichever phone you have out there. You can download it. You can check that out before you even buy the camera if you're unsure, and download it. You just won't be able to do a lot with it without the dash camera. There we go, guys, taping that up using that tester tape. And that's pretty beautiful. So we're going to plug all that in, put that back in the dash, show you how to use the dash camera. All right, guys, so that's it all installed, and what we're going to do now is we're going to start it up and show you how it will actually boot up in the vehicle. And here we go. It'll actually talk to you. It says starting the system, so you can actually adjust the volume. It's entering recording mode, so that will actually talk to you. You can turn the volume up in the app. But there you go, very nice and discreet. Let me just turn the stereo down for you guys with the GPS. And you have a couple of different things here. So you've got the Wi-Fi on the right, very simple. Manual recording if you want to record something that you don't want wiped over, and voice, so you can turn on and off via the microphone if you want to keep your privacy and don't want to hear any voice information on your recordings. You can actually manually turn the system on and off as well without unplugging the plug, because there's an on and off switch. And there is the rear camera at the rear of the vehicle that will automatically come on. So we'll actually show you from the outside, but what we're going to do quickly is show you how to connect it to the app firstly. So just focusing there a little bit so you can actually see it. That's the Wi-Fi in the side there, and you would see a little bit there, just right on the right hand side is the SD card.